The Venezuelan government denounced attempts by the far-right opposition to initiate a violent escalation in the country. In India, landslides triggered by heavy monsoon rains have killed at least 63 people and hundreds more are feared to be trapped under mud and debris. In Palestine, the Ministry of Health warned of a polio outbreak in the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Venezuelan government denounced attempts by the far-right opposition to initiate a violent escalation in the country. The president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, reaffirmed that the far-right plan was never electoral but violent and homicidal. He said so after a wave of attacks that left 23 members of the armed forces injured. Some got shot. Later, President Nicolas Maduro addressed the nation to give an account of the seriousness of the attacks perpetrated by individuals who had been mostly under the influence of drugs and armed at the time of their arrest. Meanwhile, the Attorney General Tarek William Saab delivered a report of those arrested, among them those who set fire to a PSUV headquarters. For his part, the Minister of Defense, Vladimir Padrino, made a call to those used by the far right to generate violence. After the National Electoral Council of Venezuela proclaimed and confirmed the re-election of Nicolas Maduro as president of the South American nation, the head of state denounced that the far right is trying to impose a coup d'etat. After Sunday's victory, President Maduro arrived at the headquarters of the National Electoral Council to be proclaimed constitutional president for the 2025-2031 term. During his speech, the re-elected president of Venezuela warned that the far right is trying to impose a coup d'etat in Venezuela and reiterated his calls to respect the constitution and not to allow hatred, fascism, lies, or manipulation to be imposed in the country.
It is not the first time that we are facing what we are facing today. They are trying to impose in Venezuela a coup d'état again, of a fascist and counter-revolutionary nature. I could call it a kind of Guaido 2.0. As history says no. That it presents as a tragedy and then as a comedy. It seems that as Hegel said, and then Marx popularized it, history presents itself as tragedy first and then repeats itself as comedy. We already lived this, we saw this movie, the same movie with a similar script. The protagonists are the same, on one side the people who want peace, democracy, prosperity, progress, and on the other side, elites full of hate with a counter-revolutionary and fascist project tied to the United States empire.
In this context, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, affirmed that the pertinent measures are being taken to counteract the violent acts registered in the territory promoted by the sectors of the Venezuelan far right.
We have been following up on all the acts of violence promoted by the extremist right wing. I can tell the people of Venezuela that if they have done damage, we are acting, and with the Civic Military Police Union, we are acting once again. That is why I said we know this story, we are acting once again. Because we know this modus operandi that has been used for the coup d'état of April 2002, for the first Warimba in February 27, 2004. For the violent actions called by Capriles one day after the presidential elections of April 14 and all those subsequent weeks.
Las acciones de violencia convocadas por Capriles un día después de las elecciones presidenciales del 14 de abril.
For the Warimba of 2014, which were called the exit, for the Warimbas of 2017. I have said it throughout this pilgrimage in more than 30 cities, they are hate, revenge, violence.
In this context, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, also denounced the real violent plans of the far right to are in full development.
We summoned to all our people to great marches tomorrow at 2 o'clock from Petare to Miraflores, from Cate to Miraflores, from La Vegas to Miraflores, from El Valle to Miraflores, to celebrate this victory, but also to defend peace of the Republic. This time, we will not allow that, and they will not achieve it. And of course, with all the forces of the revolutionary people of Venezuela for marches in their cities, in their states.
In other news, in the midst of a series of official activities for national holidays and a message to the nation that has been highly criticized, the marches against Dina Boluarte continue, and 1 year and 7 months after she was appointed president, the demands for her resignation continue, as well as the closing of Congress and punishment for those responsible for the more than 50 people killed during protests.
One of
the main announcements made by Dina Boluarte in her long message to the nation has been the salary increase for police and military, despite the repression, the people killed, and the investigations against these institutions.
She has the backing of the Peruvian National Police, and not only of the police, but also of the entire Joint Command, which is why she will be dispersing large amounts of money, which protects her, and that makes them continue to repress the population, so that the population cannot express their rejection of this government and this Congress.
1 year and 7 months into her administration, Peruvians reject her and continue marching to demand her resignation, the closure of parliament, and justice for those killed during protests.
En el caso de Puno, donde nosotros acompañamos, de 20 carpetas.
In the case of Puno, where we accompany, out of 20 files there are 4 files that have formalized the preparatory investigation. This is very important. Why? Because in these formalized files those responsible have already been identified. In some the chain of command has been identified and possibly the number of those responsible will increase. In others besides the chain of command, the direct authors of the crimes committed by state agents have been identified for aggravated homicide, serious injuries, minor injuries.
De los delitos cometidos por agentes del Estado, por homicidio calificado, lesiones graves, lesiones leves.
There has also been criticism that she has announced that she will not privatize water services when in practice this is what her government is seeking to do as part of the implementation of a series of neoliberal policies.
She has said that the main objective now is an investment of more than $1.5 billion to deliver 6 drinking water companies, 1 in Chiclayo, my land, 2 Trujillo, 3 Chimbote, 4 Chancay, 5 Ayacucho, and 6 Puerto Maldonado. We, in Lambayeque, and all the North are saying the privatizations with the name of concession for 25 years of the public sector to deliver to private companies is really the destruction, not only the public water sector, but the bankruptcy of sovereignty in water matters of the country.
The Congress with the lowest approval rating in history is also repudiated and described as part of a mafia coalition that supports Dina Boluarte.
We all have to be united to confront this Congress of the Republic. Here are the criminals. Here are the criminals and murderers. Here are immoral, incapable people who are trying to govern. They do not have the support of the people. They are not accepted by the people. That is what we are rejecting.
Nothing to celebrate in these national holidays, in times in which the rejection of the political class reigns, and in which issues such as the right to insurgency, to a usurper government, are being debated.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Mexico's President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum met with the fathers and mothers of the 33 missing students from Ayotzinapa. She pledged to continue the investigation of the case until justice is obtained for the victims. Our colleague Antonio Aranda has the information.
After meeting for the first time with President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum at the Mexico City Museum, the fathers and mothers of the 43 missing students in Ayotzinapa, Guerrero will hold more meetings with the next president to advance the investigation.
We agreed to continue meeting. We are not going to forget the Ayotzinapa case. We are going to continue working with them, and we are going to find a working method that will allow us to give them what they are asking for: truth, justice, and where they are.
At the conclusion of the meeting, which was held behind closed doors, President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum reiterated that the parents of the missing students are victims and have the right to know the truth.
There is no date yet, but we will continue to meet. We will work together. There are some things we will agree on, others we will not. But the important thing is to work together to get to the truth.
Vidolfo Rosales, legal representative of the parents of the Ayotzinapa students, highlighted Claudia Sheinbaum's commitment to justice.
The most positive points is that she committed to give the case a central place in her administration and her policy, and that she will follow upon the case. We will see the mechanism by which the case will be followed up.
In the morning, the parents of the missing Ayotzinapa students met with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador at the National Palace, where they handed him a letter in response to the president's report on the case. The fathers and mothers of the 43 missing students from Ayotzinapa, Guerrero, are pleased that Dr. Claudia Sheinbaum, once she takes office, has pledged to advance the investigation as a priority.
Antonio Aranda, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
In the United States, a thunderstorm was reported to have caused flooding at Dolly Parton's Dollywood Park in East Tennessee. According to local authorities, all visitors were evacuated Sunday afternoon due to heavy rainfall. Authorities also reported that MacArthur Hollow Road at Dollywood's entrance collapsed. However, no major damages were reported. The National Weather Service in Morristown warned that heavy rains are expected in the next 48 hours. In India, landslides triggered by pounding monsoon rains left at least 63 people killed and hundreds feared trapped under mud and debris. Officials report that 250 people have been rescued so far. The southern coastal state of Kerala has been battered by heavy rains, with blocked roads into the disaster area at Wayanad district, hindering relief efforts. District officials said 105 people were in hospital for treatment. India's army said it had deployed more than 200 soldiers to the area to assist state security forces and fire crews in search and rescue efforts. The state's disaster management agency reported more rainfall and strong winds are expected in Kerala. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's office has said families of victims will be given a compensation payment of $2,400.
Massive landslides occurred in Wayanad, and rescue operations are going on. And we are exploring everything possible to rescue our lives, the lives of our people.
Climate scientist Kartiki Negi say climate change due to human action have disturbed the atmosphere, leading to more erratic weather patterns.
Patterns have become more erratic. You see the number of extremely heavy rainfall days have increased, while the number of normal rainfall days have decreased. There is no uniformity in the monsoon rains as they used to be. The atmosphere is quite disturbed. there has been an immense increase in the humidity, in the moisture levels in the atmosphere, and thus we see more and more extreme events these days.
On Monday, the governments of China and Italy issued an action plan to strengthen the comprehensive strategic partnership following the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The Asian leader underlined that the spirit of the Silk Road, based on peaceful cooperation, openness, inclusiveness, and mutual benefit, is a common heritage that both countries should preserve and promote. Meanwhile, Meloni assured that her trip is a demonstration of the will to initiate a new phase and to relaunch bilateral cooperation between Rome and Beijing, the year of the 20th anniversary of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Xi Jinping highlighted the importance of open and reciprocal cooperation in areas such as trade, investment, industrial manufacturing, and technological innovation. The president-elect of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, advocates for strengthening bilateral relations with Cuba and South Africa within the framework of the BRICS. This way, Pezeshkian has held meetings with several senior officials who are in the Persian nation, including the Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz and the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Ronald Uzi Lamala. The talks with the Caribbean nations representative focused on the implementation of the agreements reached between them during the administration of President Ibrahim Raisi and the country's strategic visions to counteract U.S. sanctions. On the other hand, with the South African minister, Pezeshkian stressed the importance of strengthening ties through international mechanisms such as the BRICS. We now have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, the Ministry of Health warned of a polio outbreak in the Gaza Strip. Health authorities indicate that the main cause of the spread of the virus is due to the constant Israeli offensive, the destruction of infrastructures, the accumulation of garbage, and contaminated water. The ministry warns that the epidemic is harmful to health, not only in Palestine but also in the neighboring states. The World Health Organization indicated that without the cessation of the Israeli siege in the Gaza Strip, the program to fight the virus will not be able to overcome the epidemic. Settlers and far-right legislators stormed Israeli bases following the arrest of 9 Occupation Army soldiers accused of raping and abusing Palestinian prisoners. On Monday, dozens of settlers and far-right lawmakers invaded the Beit Lid and Steinman bases after military police detained and began interrogating the accused personnel. According to Israeli media reports, troops deployed at the Steinman concentration camp have been torturing the Palestinian detainees for fun. In one specific case, a Gazan was transferred to a hospital after receiving serious injuries and being sexually abused. Since Monday, there have been clashes between far-right settlers and police officers. In Syria, citizens of the occupied Syrian Golan protested against the visit of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Hundreds of residents tried to prevent the Israeli Prime Minister from entering the area where the projectile sent by the Tel Aviv troops into the Syrian Golan fell. The population prepared chants and angry slogans against Netanyahu to demand his departure. The framework of the tension comes after a recent rocket attack killed 12 people and wounded 40 others in the city of Mahtal Shams. Despite Hezbollah's denial, Tel Aviv holds Hezbollah responsible for the events and threatens to take action in retaliation. In Russia, in the region of the Republic of Karelia, at least one person lost his life after the crumbling of a provisional bridge between the slopes of the White Sea and Baltic Channel. According to the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations, the event also left 10 people injured, including 3 children. The agency detailed that the search for more people is still going on, since 2 women are still missing between locks number and 1011 in Novovoitsy. A temporary bridge was completely destroyed after being swept away by the force of the water. Authorities declared a state of emergency in the Segesa district. In France, the men's triathlon event at the Olympic Games in Paris was postponed from Tuesday to Wednesday, to the same day as the women's events due to contamination detected in the water of the River Seine. The organizing committee and the International Triathlon Union reported that heavy rains on Friday and Saturday in Paris degraded the quality of the river water, with values still above acceptable limits in certain places on the course. If the water quality was still insufficient, the races could be postponed to Friday. Training sessions for triathletes to familiarize themselves with the waters of the Seine, scheduled for Sunday and Monday, were cancelled due to pollution. Since 2016, authorities invested more than $1.52 billion in creating infrastructure to reduce pollution in the Seine and allow Olympic trials.
The International Federation decided to report the competition for tomorrow because the result was not good enough in the term of water quality. Okay, we know this expectation could be a possibility. That's why we preview some contingency day. So tomorrow you will have 2 competitions in the morning if the quality of water is good enough and the trend is actually on the positive way. So we are still confident for tomorrow having the 2 competitions in the same day, and they made the organization for that. So we're gonna see tomorrow. We are totally confident because the trend is positive. Actually, not good enough for today, but I hope for good enough for tomorrow. Yeah.
In Mexico, a vibrant party was held in honor of the sonideros, popular DJs who liven up neighborhoods and towns throughout the country with tropical rhythms and cumbias. Dozens of people joined together to dance and enjoy the music, expressing their joy and excitement for the famous sonideros, who emerged as an entertainment alternative for the popular classes in the face of the exclusivity of the discotheques. These open-air parties offer a space for fun, allowing people to disconnect from social problems. They are also an inclusive group, since anyone can join their celebrations. In 2023, the authorities of the Cuauhtémoc district in Mexico City banned these parties in a popular neighborhood, which triggered protests among neighbors. However, despite these challenges, the sonideros culture continues to be a vital expression of joy and community in Mexico. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.